Greetings, WiBit friends. Kevin here from WiBit.net. In this webisode, we're going to be installing a LAMP server. For those of you guys that aren't aware, LAMP is an acronym for Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. It's a simple open source stack of software that you can use to get a web application up and running with minimum cost. Really, basically just the cost of hardware. So here, we're just going to start from scratch, completely from the beginning, and we're going to go all the way through. Now, I'm going to be using Ubuntu server as the operating system here. And some people don't like Ubuntu. I happen to be a pretty big fan of Ubuntu server, at least. Not a big fan of the desktop operating system, but the server operating system, quite a big fan. And I am aware that Ubuntu does have some configuration features in the installer that can allow you to build a LAMP right through the installation, but that's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the Kevin way because I feel like I have a little bit more control over the process. Now, that might just be my own insecurities, but who knows? Who cares? But anyways, let's get started. If you have your own physical server to install this on, you could do that there, but I'm going to use a virtual machine. So we'll be using VirtualBox on my Macintosh operating system here. You can just Google Oracle VirtualBox. You can download this for free. And let's create a new virtual machine. So we're going to create a Linux server, which is the L in LAMP, and we'll call it LAMP. Okay, continue. And it's going to ask us about RAM. 1024 is perfectly fine for this particular tutorial. We'll create a virtual disk and we'll make it a VDI, dynamically allocated. That way we're not consuming a whole bunch of disk space for no reason. And 8 gigs of data, that's perfectly fine for this test. And here we go. Virtual machine is ready to go. But there's a couple of things that I want to do first. The first thing is under my network settings, I'm going to change my NAT to a bridge adapter. And under the advanced settings, I will change the promiscuous mode to allow all. And one thing I like to do just for good measure is refresh my MAC address, I don't know, a bunch of times, just so I get a nice, clean, fresh MAC address. And this will allow me to connect to this web server, this virtual server from basically any machine on my local area network, because my LAN will assign an IP address to this as opposed to NAT, which would be available only on this local workstation. Next, I'm going to go to my storage, and here's my CD drive. I'll select empty. And then the little CD icon here, I'm going to choose the disk image that I want. And I've already went out and downloaded the Ubuntu 16.04.2 server ISO, which you can do. Just Google, Ubuntu server download, and you can download it for whatever architecture you want. I recommend if you're going to follow this that you do use version 16X. Okay. And okay, cool. So we can start the virtual machine. Yeah. Now, I have installed Ubuntu a million times in my life. I can pretty much just walk through this with my eyes closed. So we'll just kind of bust through this. Shouldn't be too terribly complicated. All right, so we'll select our language. United States is where I'm from. I don't need to detect my keyboard because I have an English QWERTY keyboard. All right, my host name, I'll just call it WiBit-LAMP. The user, I'll just call it WiBit. Account WiBit, and just put whatever password. Obviously, if you're going to be doing this for real, you want to have a nice secure password. So I'm doing no for encrypting my home folder. My time zone is the New York time zone. As far as disk partitioning is concerned, just to make it easy, it's going to do a guided. Now, what this is going to do is create an ext4 in a swap partition. If I were to build this on a physical server that actually had, some commercial grade hardware and, tons and tons of RAM, I would want to do this manually because I like to set my own swap space because I find that a lot of times the installer allocates a lot more swap space than you really need on gigantic commercial servers. But in this case, I don't really care. So this is fine for now. And again, as I was saying, a LAMP stack is really good for whether maybe you have a small application that's serving a small number of clients, or you're trying to build up and set up a testing environment. If you're trying to build something that scales, then doing a LAMP stack, all encompassed on one server doesn't really scale very well. Like if you have to have a single database backend, load balance with a bunch of web servers, a single LAMP stack doesn't really work. So maybe at some point we can discuss a different way of building this type of architecture. But I just want to let that be known that you want, when you're building your LAMP stacks, you just want to make sure that you're doing it for either small applications or for testing and developing. And one funny thing I've noticed, so I've installed Ubuntu like a billion times on physical servers, virtual servers, doesn't matter. It always seems to go from 0 to 83% real fast, and then it sticks on 83% for half the time that it takes to install. Pretty funny. Okay, so HTTP proxy information, I don't have any. And now we're going to configure apt and select our packages. All right, so set this up how you'd like it. I'm going to do no automatic updates. And here's what I was saying, how if I wanted to, I could just select this and it would set up the LAMP server for me. So it would just install it with basic configurations and basic modules. I'm not going to do that because I want to be able to do everything myself. Like I said, I feel like I have more control over the process. It may just be my insecurities. I don't know. But for on a basic setup, I will do just an open SSH server so I have access to it from a remote site or a remote client. And that's all that we're going to do for now. The next stage of the installation, we'll be able to select Grub as our bootloader. So we'll say yes to that, of course. All right, finishing up the installation. Cool. So our installation should be complete. The virtual machine will automatically eject the CD-ROM so that there's no worry about booting back into the installer. So we'll go ahead and do continue. And now we should actually boot up into a functioning Ubuntu server Linux virtual machine.